Welcome to the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Friday, November 15th, and St. Denis Medical is a new mockumentary-style workplace comedy that aired its first 2 episodes Tuesday on NBC. The show follows the daily operations of an underfunded hospital in Oregon. There's doctors, interns, nurses, hospital administrators, patients, all cracking jokes while battling injuries, infections, and personal life drama. Let's get the comparisons out of the way. The Office, Parks and Rec, mockumentaries. How is it the same? How is it different? We both watched it, so I'll ask you. Similarities.
Joyce is the female Michael Scott. I feel like she's a weird boss that doesn't really understand how to connect with people. She's the person that runs the hospital. There's also a will they, won't they that seems like The Office and Parks and Recreation had. A lot of the characters have their own quirk to them, but I feel like more of them are more down to earth than others. I also got Scrubs as a comparison.
Right.
I know
Let's stick with the mockumentaries for now,
right.
Because I agree with you. There's the workplace-centric comedies that we've seen with The Office element and Parks and Rec, exaggerated dumbness, which I would be a little bit afraid of in a doctor setting because you don't want the doctors to be as dumb, especially the one running the hospital, to be as stupid as, let's say, a paper company manager, or in Parks and Rec, I guess it's just the government in that sense. The weird boss thing has worked terribly when they've tried to move The Office into other countries, sides for like Germany. Where
you're talking about the Australian version.
Most recently, yes, where they try to they gender swap Michael Scott and they try to make just an outrageous version of him. However, because this is an ensemble cast, truly in like a different way than Parks and Rec was Leslie Knope's show with an ensemble around her. It is more like The Office where everybody has their little pieces. And so the Michael Scott character in this, I think Joyce still has a funny impact in it, even if her character is a bit much.
It seems like the reviews and just people are salivating over trying to call this the next Office. Chicago Tribune, new NBC sitcom is The Office, but in a hospital. Daily Beast, is this NBC's new The Office? Mashable, St. Denis Medical has TV's next Jim and Pam. It just seems like they are trying to connect this so much because I guess people are missing The Office.
Same creators, to a certain extent.
Somewhat. I mean, the big thing that they're known for is Superstore. That's kind of why they
which was also a sort of a spin-off in a way of The Office, the same sort of ensemble element to that, but not as much a mockumentary. Another thing that the show has that The Office and Parks and Rec had, probably the thing that led it through all its years and kept it going even when both shows kind of lost track of what was their heart.
Yes.
You know, there's definitely a heart element at the end of the first episode. You have them saving lives at the end of the second episode. You have one of the doctors confessing why he became a doctor, almost in a similar branch to how like Lenox Hill, a real life documentary, has heart, because you do see real doctors going about their lives and sometimes telling their personal stories.
And that's something the creators said. They wanted to focus and obviously paint nurses in a good light, but they really wanted to focus on the nurses because they felt like a lot of medical shows focus too much on the doctors and sometimes are overshadowed a little bit.
I do see that in Scrubs, like back in the early 2000s, the nurse related storylines, especially if there was a male nurse, they'd make fun of it.
Yes.
Like, obviously, they would also try to amp him up, and they'd be like, he ended up dating Elliot, who was the main female lead there. And so they were like amping it up and being like, yes, male people can be nurses. But this was taking it and making it completely normal.
And Justin Spitzer, he's one of the creators. One of his first ever writing credits was for Scrubs.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where they kind of had the background there as well.
Yeah, I also want to pay attention to the mockumentary differences, because one of the things that The Office did, it waited on many, many years, was to have the people on the other side of the camera speak. And within the first 2 episodes, we do hear their voice and they start to talk. Now, I don't think that's going to be a common element, but it was sort of like what you'd see in a Fine Bros video from like Kids React back in the day.
Wow, that is a throwback.
Where you'd hear the questioner, but you'd never see their face. So I wonder how much of that we're going to get in the future. It is different than what I've seen before. And they're also, like I said, better at their jobs, it seems like. For instance, in The Office, Creed would never do any work. Jim would be flirting with Pam. Dwight was too work-oriented, but that would come at a cost sometimes. It seems like you were talking about the nurses. they're on their element. When they put work first over family, it's because there's actually emergencies, and I like to see that. It's not children's hospital.
I agree with you. Yeah, like there was definitely stupid parts to it, and people make stupid decisions or remarks. But it was like actually being able to see doctors and nurses do their job, like when they had that trauma patient, or you saw the nurse stop and
That
pick up.
trauma patient, wasn't there a few of them?
Yeah, there was a few of them they saw. My point is, when you were actually seeing them do their jobs, it was refreshing.
It was in the same light as if I was to walk into a hospital and I was to see the children's hospital doctors there, I would walk out because I'd be afraid of being. But if I were to walk in and see these jokesters, I would still feel comfortable and getting treated. And I would wonder how that, like, if I was in a coma or something. It's the difference between a Tacoma FD,
Yes.
which is everybody is also insane, the children's hospital, and Abbott Elementary.
Right.
Which Abbott Elementary has hijinks and stuff. The principal, I think, is also one of those Michael Scottish types.
Without Abbott Elementary, I don't think that you would have had St. Denis Medical, because I think you can credit Abbott Elementary with how popular it's become with kind of revitalizing the mockumentary style. Think about it.
I don't know. I don't think there was ever really a big gap between when The Office was such a big success, Parks and Rec. Like, there was no gap period, really.
I mean, I think there was, because like Parks and Rec ended in what, like 2017, and then after that, can you name another mockumentary style that actually worked?
That actually worked. I mean, they tried trial and error, and it feels like sitcom comedies have sort of melded in the way. I don't remember all the mockumentaries in between, but you're right. Like Scrubs, Abbott Elementary, there's a lot of different comparisons. Any others that you want to go through before we jump into the first episode?
No, but I did have a 3 Truths, 1 Lie game.
Yeah, let's go.
If you want to do it. It's about the show. So the first one is, although the series is not filmed in a real hospital, the pilot was. Second one is 30% of the show is improvised. Third one is
why? So the first episode that we watched and the second episode, you're saying were filmed in 2 different locations?
Yes.
I mean, did they just rebuild the set in a second location? Is that how?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay, go ahead. Second episode.
The third one is Mekki Lepper.
No, I missed the second. What was the second?
The second one is 30% of the show is improvised.
Okay.
The third one is Mekki Lepper, who plays Matt, was not going to be in the series until Ruben Flesher, the director of the first 2 episodes, suggested he be in it. And the fourth one is the creators.
But then the series would be like 15 minutes long each episode, because he's at least in 6 minutes of each episode.
Not the character Matt, the person who played him.
Okay.
And then the last one is the creators have made clear Matt, Serena's Will They Won't They will not be a central point of the show. So that is, they filmed it in the pilot in an actual hospital. 30% of the show is improvised. The Mekki Lepper fact with Matt. And the creators, Will They Won't They will not be a central point.
I swear, if you do that thing where you're like 45% of it was improvised, I'm gonna say the fact that you say about the pilot being shot, I swear that they did something similar with Children's Hospital, but then they used Scrubs Hospital for Children's Hospital.
That's right, I remember you saying that.
But so maybe that could be true, but I'll go ahead and just wing this one because I have no idea. So I will say C.
C? The one about Mekki Lepper? Do you know who Mekki Lepper is? He's the person from Jury Duty who was the person that was being cheated on. That's him.
No, it was him.
Yeah, and that
you should have said that. Yeah,
and that actually is true. Ruben Fletcher, who has done like Zombieland and a ton of big movies, Venom even, decided that he suggested that they really use him, and then that's when the creator said, "Okay, we will."
I remember that really awkward crush in Jury Duty where like him and that girl go into the hotel room with James Marsden and start bouncing on the bed. Yep, that was
The fake one was 30% of the show is improvised. The creators have made it clear that they're against improvisation.
Good. No, if I'd really thought about it, I would have said that, because I do feel like the humor here is very smart, despite it feels so off the cuff. It actually does feel like something some real people would say, but not in a way where it's just goofy improvisation that you would see in Children's Hospital.
So, yeah, but the pilot was shot in a hospital called St. Vincent. The series was a hospital set that even Mekki Lepper posted a video about, kind of walking people around the set and showing them. And then, yeah, the creators have made it clear. I think that they, especially when it comes to things like The Office, which really just focus on Jim and Pam by the end, and Friends.
The third season, yeah.
And Friends, which really focus on Rachel and...
right. I wouldn't even expect that this Will They, Won't They has to go very far into this season. Like, it doesn't seem like it's that strong. It was kind of a joke to begin with.
Yes.
And yes, it's the only storyline that seems to have transferred over 2 episodes. I don't really see this as the type of show that drags along too many long writing storylines. Maybe the fact that Alex, it feels like she's not giving enough to her kids, like that could turn into a real dramatic element. But as far as like the doctors, you got sort of a Todd-ish doctor from Scrubs,
Yes.
and that surgeon guy who's like more about trying to do the right thing, but he thinks he's House and he's not. And it felt like in the first episode, like I had seen the first 5 minutes before. Were they played as an ad to like a football game? Because I think that in a commercial break or something. That
I don't think so. I remember when I
previewed.
first saw the ad, it was on YouTube.
Right. So maybe the ad just gave away a lot from the first 5 minutes, but it felt like I'd seen a sneak peek of this thing and I didn't remember. But Alex, Joyce, Matt, Ron, Bruce, Serena, it's a small cast, but they still make it feel like it's a full hospital.
Yes.
Good for them.
Alex, it was crazy to see her, Allison Tolman, because she was in Why Women Kill, playing a very different character.
Well, yeah, she's been in Fargo. I think since Fargo, her career exploded, and it was like, this lady can do anything she wants.
Minx, Gaslit, a lot
drama,
of things.
She can do comedy. And so, yeah, she's a good centerpiece heart of the story, who's not JD, who's not going to, like, everybody else can be around her mad and crazy, and she's just kind of type A personality. She's going to do corrections. She's even managing Joyce, so she's taking the gym persona in that case. In the second episode, Joyce starts being a little bit too emotional because of one of her mentors who had passed away. It was like a Zumba class that she used to take, and she was in love with this guy, and he dies, and she just like becomes utterly depressed about it until she opens up on a phone call that she's supposed to be talking about the hospital's budget. And that was very The Office-ish, where Michael Scott would call up David, whatever his name was, and they would have a phone call, and he would always just like give him the yeah, go ahead.
And I was just going to mention that in the first episode, that the main plot of that is Alex has a hard time leaving the hospital. And even though this was very different, because I worked the information desk when I volunteered at a hospital a couple of years ago, that actually was something I ran into whenever I would be taking over for people's shifts. Now, again, it was information desk, not nurse or doctors. That is a completely different story. They have obviously a more important job. But whenever I was working the information desk, people would not want to leave. If there was a problem, the people who were working previously to me would be trying to figure it out. They wouldn't like even really tell me about it. They just want to stay and fix it before they left.
That's cool.
So I saw that connection in the first episode.
Yeah, and so like people working overtime, she misses her daughter's school play. She's about to go see it when one of the patients who has been really stuck in the I guess the ground, she's stuck at the information desk. She's trying to get in, and the person's not letting her in yet.
Think that she was, because when you went to different elevators or different levels, that's when nurses usually were stuck behind those desks. So I think that she had kind of a more professional setup than like a normal information desk.
And also, she chose to leave the hospital. She could have stayed there, but she just got tired of waiting. A lot of people can understand that. However, she collapses in the parking lot. Alex sees her, saves her life, and then her husband shows up later on, and that's where Alex comforts him, and it's a nice touching moment.
That actually, Allison Tolman said that was her favorite part when the husband came up. That was her favorite scene to film.
It's a big moment. So, of course, Joyce spends all her money in the hospital on a new mammogram machine, and she expects it to be competing with all the big hospitals. That's why she originally wants to do it. However, it takes out their internet immediately because they don't have the bandwidth, and then she eventually reneges on the deal, decides to return it, only to get a 10% restocking fee. And so she's not probably the best hospital administrator we've ever seen, but she seems like the type that over time we're just going to like become more okay with her, and that she's going to mature a bit. Matt is this new Amish nurse. Like he comes from an Amish community. So by episode 2, he's misunderstanding why people would want to have their organs removed after death. Like at first he finds it gross, but then he finds out that his crush is also choosing to do that.
Serena.
With her. Yeah. And so he, by the end of the episode, signs up for it. And
I think he's my favorite character.
I was going to ask you that. Like, who between him and Ron, the doctor, right? The old doctor, and also Bruce, they're all hilarious.
Yes, I think that every character worked. There wasn't one that really annoyed me. I think that Joyce probably will grow on me as time goes on. I think she was probably the weakest, but in terms of my favorite, I think it's just Matt. Obviously, because I really like this character in Jury Duty, but I think he has the most jokes here.
I wanted to call Joyce my least favorite character, but her plot lines were actually funny. Like what she was doing, her actions were annoying. But like the mammogram storyline, I can totally see a hospital like overspending on something like that. And then in the second episode where she's on a phone call and she's embarrassing herself and the people around her have to like rein her in, I found that really good too. And so there was no individual storyline that didn't work, that didn't have its like from Ron dating an old grandma, even though he was way into like younger women and he's like 50 some years old, from Bruce having a kind of an identity crisis when it comes to why he became a doctor, because he can't find a good patient to present in front of the camera that shows them like why saving them is a good deal. It's like one was a white supremacist and then the other one was like someone who goes after families who can't pay their debts, you know.
The funny thing about Josh Lawson, he's the one that plays Bruce, is he was asked, what show did you watch a lot as a kid? And he said Diagnosis Murder. Diagnosis Murder was a show he watched growing up. Yeah, so that's the second time.
So it was like Matlock was then spun off into like Fat Joe or something, and then from there it was Diagnosis Murder, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and there was a certain amount of Dick Van Dyke should really appear on all of these. He should go from the new Matlock to this show and make the rounds. He said in a recent interview that when they asked him about what he thought of the election, he was like, "Well, I'm happy I'm probably not going to be around to see the full extent of it." He's 98 years old.
I was going to say he's almost over 100, I think.
He's 98 years old.
Wendy McClendon-Covey, I think she's the biggest name they had. She's the one that plays Joyce. She got the script the day after she found out the Goldbergs was ending, but she described Joyce as a penny pitcher, and she's the motivator for keeping everybody's spirits up, and she is annoying. That's how the actress playing her character.
I know, but I think it's like when you make an office in a different country now, the problem is you should not cast the boss as annoying,
right?
Especially when you're like gender swapping, because you're trying to recreate what Steve Carell did,
or Ricky Gervais.
No, because Ricky Gervais was like just an asshole when he played that character. Like he's not Michael in the American version. Trying to recreate Steve Carell, if you're not Steve Carell, comes off insufferable. And I think they've learned that, or I don't think they've learned that. So casting in that way, that's if Joyce was the main character here, if she was Leslie Knope, I think I would give this a negative review. She's not. It's an ensemble cast. It works. There's a ton of jokes where I actually laughed out loud. Overall, pros and cons, I would say it stretches credulity when you think about like one of the jokes was that Bruce spent so much time in the operating room dancing that they could do 3 more surgeries.
Yeah. A day.
No way. Like that would never happen in real life, but it's a hilarious joke on the show when he's doing CPR on the keyboard and then just pretending like waving that off. It's if you like ER, you might even like this show because they also had like a sense of comedy when they would go over to the nurse station.
Well, Justin Spitzer, again, the creator for the show, said they wanted to tackle what was like day-to-day of a non-beautiful Grey's Anatomy or ER, and both of them love environments where people are stuck together. That's why...
non-beautiful? How dare they?
Well, that's why in this show, you're never going to see characters outside of the hospital. They said the farthest you're going to get is in the parking lot because they're really just going to focus on St. Denis Medical.
So there's not going to be any like McDreamy. I could totally see them pulling in and just being like, that's the sexy doctor. Because right now we have like, this is the dumb doctor and like, this is the naive intern and the snarky crush and like the typical workaholic. So they do follow the tropes, but they also give them their own like niche thing. Like making him Amish was something that I particularly enjoyed. The second episode is called A Very Robust Personal Life. Between the first two, I think both achieve really honing down who the characters are so that you can jump into any episode. I don't think that this is going to be serialized, right? This is going to be...
No, I think that they're coming out with 18 episodes for the first season.
No, but it's not going to be... you can watch them independently.
Right. I think it's going to be episodic. It's
Episodic, yeah. So any other pros and cons that you thought about?
I just didn't think that it was going to work when I saw the trailer. I thought that it was going to fail, maybe work one season. But after seeing the first 2 episodes, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the plot.
It's not as good as the first few seasons of Scrubs. It's not
right.
as smart as the first few seasons of Scrubs.
And
it's way better than the worst that Scrubs becomes. I'm not saying the later seasons of Scrubs didn't have singular episodes that stood out, but like this, I think, has a almost safer floor. It can't fall too bad over time. And watch me eat my words on that one. But yeah, I'm willing to give this first 2 episodes an 8 out of 10. I think anybody who tunes in is going to find something to like.
I will push your 8 out of 10. I'll just mention a couple facts about Eric Legend because he's also the second creator for the show. He's only wrote 2 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but one of them was The Gang Goes to a Water Park, which is considered to be one of the best episodes. He also wrote
a Creedy episode. Yeah.
He also wrote for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, Rutherford Falls, and also Superstore. But the reviews have been pretty good for it. First off, it pulled off pretty good viewership, like 3.8 million viewers total, which
Back
was
in the day, that was terrible viewership.
Up versus Night Court Season 2 and Extended Family Season 1. 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.9 on IMDb. Variety said St. Denis Medical quickly coheres into an ensemble that's a likable lens, though which to view some grim, intractable dysfunction.
Have we steadied out in viewership where like at this point with the streaming wars and stuff, like where we're at like a level 2 to 3 million is a good show? Because I know for a while, 10 years ago, on the CW, if you had like 1 million or 2 million for a show that's been on for a few years, that was really good. But for a new show, that would be like abysmal.
I think it depends on the channel.
That,
yeah,
like Lost, when it came out, it had 16 million for its pilot or 14 million, and or maybe it spent that much. And then 10 years before that, before the internet was really involved on X-Files, you were talking about like 20, 30 million people.
Again, I think, yeah, streaming has definitely made it where lower numbers are better.
Obviously, but I'm saying it hasn't leveled out because we've had streaming for over 10 years now. I feel like 2 or 3 million, maybe in like 3 years from now on a pilot that comes out may still be sustainable.
But probably, yeah, I think so.
So you agree? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.